Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa Belisle. You are listening to or watching Radio Maine, where each week we explore and celebrate creativity and the human spirit. We are sponsored by the Portland Art Gallery in Portland, Maine. This is the 20th in our solo series. Today's reflection is called What We Tend. Over time, I've come to believe that much of a meaningful life is shaped not by what we build all at once, but what we tend slowly and repeatedly over the years. Tending is quiet work. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't always show immediate results. And yet it is often the difference between something that survives briefly and something that lasts. I learned this first in medicine. As a family doctor, I rarely fixed anything in a single visit. Health unfolded over time through relationships, habits, trust, and attention. Often, my role was not to intervene dramatically, but to notice what needed care and to return to it again and again. Blood pressure improved because someone felt supported enough to walk regularly. Sleep improved because someone finally named what had been weighing them down. Healing came not from a single moment, but from sustained presence. I saw this in patients whose lives were complex and layered. People navigating chronic illness, grief, recovery, or major life transitions. Progress was rarely linear, but when something was tended with consistency and care, it often grew stronger, even if slowly. Tending requires patience. It requires showing up when the outcome is uncertain. It requires attention without urgency. I've come to see the same pattern in creative work. Writing for me has never arrived fully formed. It has emerged through drafts, revisions, pauses, and returns. There are days when the work flows easily and days when it feels resistant or unfinished. What matters is not the perfection of any one piece, but the willingness to keep returning to the page, to tend the work even when it feels incomplete. The Bountiful Path emerged this way, not as a single declaration, but as a series of reflections shaped over time. Each piece connected to the last, not always obviously, but meaningfully. Writing became a way of tending my own questions about presence, identity, creativity, and change. Leadership, too, is a form of tending. In leadership roles, there is often pressure to move quickly, to solve problems decisively, to produce visible results. But the leadership that has felt most aligned for me has been quieter. It has involved tending relationships, culture, and trust, checking in regularly, listening for what is unsaid, returning to shared values when decisions feel complicated. The healthiest teams I've been part of were not built through constant innovation alone, but through consistent care. People felt seen. Processes were revisited. Conversations continued over time. That kind of leadership doesn't always look impressive from the outside, but it creates environments where people can do their best work. I think about tending in my personal life as well. Parenting has taught me this more than anything else. Children grow not because of any single conversation or rule, but because of the accumulation of daily care. Meals prepared, questions answered, presents offered, even when it's inconvenient. The results often appear years later, long after the effort itself has faded from memory. Loss has also deepened my understanding of tending. After my father died, there was a temptation to want closure, resolution, or a sense of completion. But grief doesn't work that way. Instead, it asks to be tended, remembered, revisited, integrated. Over time, grief changes shape, not because it disappears, but because it is carried with care. Tending grief allowed space for gratitude to grow alongside it, for memories to become companions rather than wounds, for my father's influence to remain active in my life rather than frozen in the past. What I've learned is this: what we neglect often withers, but what we tend, even imperfectly, has a chance to endure. This applies to health, creativity, relationships, leadership, and inner life alike. Tending doesn't require grand gestures. It requires attention. It requires return. It requires a willingness to stay engaged, even when progress feels slow. And perhaps most importantly, tending asks us to value continuity over intensity. In a culture that celebrates breakthroughs and transformations, tending reminds us that steady care matters just as much, that maintenance is meaningful, that showing up repeatedly is a form of devotion. So this week, I invite you to ask yourself a gentle question. What in my life is asking to be tended right now? It might be your body, your sleep, a relationship, a creative practice, a conversation you've been postponing. It might be your own need for rest or reflection. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to resolve it. You simply need to notice it and return to it with care. You can listen to this episode as part of the Bountiful Path, a Radio Maine series, and if reflections like this resonate with you, I hope you'll join me on the Bountiful Path, my newsletter on Substack, where I write about presence, creativity, and the practices that help us live with intention over time. I'm Dr. Lisa Belisle. Thank you for listening to Radio Maine. May what you tend this week be met with patience, steadiness, and care.